This is CBC Vancouver News.
A major cycling event in the Okanagan ends in tragedy when a vehicle crashes into a group of riders, killing a cyclist. Also,
they're creating a guard in between the fire and the nearby structures.
Crews work to tackle a trio of wildfires near Pentictton as dozens of residents are forced from their homes and others are told to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. Plus,
we know that there are neighborhoods that are struggling, especially in the commercial areas.
the number of empty storefronts in Vancouver's downtown east side continues to grow, how the city plans to tackle the problem and revitalize the neighborhood. Hello, thanks for joining us. A cyclist was hit and killed by a vehicle this morning while riding in a Granfondo race in Pentictton, and two others were seriously hurt. Mounties say the crash happened on White Lake Road near St. Andrews Drive, a route that's part of the popular cycling event. One rider was pronounced dead at the scene and two others were taken to the hospital with serious injuries. The road was shut down for nearly 8 hours but has since reopened. In a statement, Pentictton Mayor Julius Bloomfield says, "We are devastated by the news of this tragedy and our hearts go out to everyone who has been affected." While organizers of the Okanagan Granfondo say they are heartbroken by the fatal incident and are cooperating with authorities. The city of Pentictton had issued a traffic advisory ahead of the event, warning drivers to expect delays and watch for cyclists along highway routes. The event draws thousands of riders to the city each year. To BC's wildfires now, a fire burning out of control near Pentictton has grown to 14 hectares. 30 properties are on evacuation order and another 40 are on alert. The BC Wildfire Service says crews are working to establish a guard between the August lake fire and the nearest homes.
They are focusing mainly on the northern and eastern flanks of the fire. They're creating a guard in between the fire and the nearby structures, as well as establishing a hose lay and a wet line.
She says there was minimal growth today. Still, the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen is advising people to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. And about 30 kilometers south of Pentictton, the Placer Creek wildfire is growing rapidly, more than doubling in size since it was sparked yesterday morning, spreading to about 725 hectares. Also in the interior, the Lower Young Creek wildfire is classified as being held, but an evacuation alert remains in place. Federal investigators have been deployed to Vancouver International Airport following an engine fire on board a WestJet flight. WestJet and the airport confirmed the flight had arrived from Tampa, Florida, just before 11 p.m. when a small tailpipe caught fire. YVR's fire and rescue team were called in, but the aircraft's onboard systems put the fire out. About 50 passengers who were still on the plane were evacuated through an emergency slide. The aircraft has since been removed from service. The Transportation Safety Board is investigating. Some pediatric services at Colona General Hospital resumed today after its PEDS unit was closed for 6 weeks due to a doctor shortage.
This means we're going to be able to start performing surgeries for appropriate patients and procedures at the site. We're also going to be able to resume some diagnostics that may have been on hold over the last few weeks of the interruption.
Masterson says patients will be admitted to the pediatric unit during daytime hours, and anyone needing urgent care can still visit the ER. The pediatric department has been closed since May 26. Interior Health says 22 patients had to be transferred to other communities during the closure. The health authority says they've had 4 full-time physicians recently sign offer letters to work at the hospital. The decision by BC Ferries to have 4 of its new ships built in China has caused a political storm, with some politicians calling for the deal to be scrapped. But as Katie DeRosa reports, local mayors say the criticism ignores the pressing needs of people in ferry-dependent communities.
BC Ferries' announcement that its 4 new ships will be built in China has made waves, the political tsunami reaching all the way to Ottawa. The Conservatives, both federally and in BC, say the deal should be scrapped entirely. But would ferry users support paying $1 billion more for a ferry built in Europe, since no Canadian companies bid, even if that means higher fares?
I'm always concerned about dollars and value for the dollar. Certainly I'd like it to go toward Canadian builders if it's possible. But I'm also torn between, the cost of the ferries.
They'd probably have to end up raising the cost of the trip over.
Ideally, I think they should be built here.
Yeah.
But I think they're playing catch-up. I think there was a timing issue. We need those ferries now.
Some mayors in ferry-dependent communities say residents don't care where the new ships are built, as long as it results in more reliable service and affordable fares.
As ferry-dependent users, I think it's fair to say we need them. We don't really care now because we need them.
The procurement discussion is I think a little bit disconnected from the discourse that we're seeing, and I'm not sure how big of a deal it actually is, particularly if there isn't Canadian capacity to build those vessels.
Premier David Eby says BC Ferries is getting short shrift when it comes to federal cash for ferries compared to Atlantic Canada. BC Ferries received just over $35 million from Ottawa last year. Based on nearly 23 million passengers that year, that amounts to $1.50 per passenger. Compare that to Marine Atlantic, which received $192 million from the federal government while serving just under 400,000 passengers. That breaks down to over $500 per passenger. The Premier also pointing out that Marine Atlantic's newest ship was built in the same Chinese state-owned shipyard without similar backlash. A $1 billion loan to BC Ferries from the Canada Infrastructure Bank is now the subject of scrutiny from the House of Commons Transport Committee. It follows criticism from provincial and federal Conservatives who say the contract should be cancelled. But one UBC professor says that's simply not realistic.
The notion that ships to be operated by BC Ferries should be constructed in Canada is acting rather like Mr. Trump. We have fundamentally to accept that we can't do all things, and that we rely on a competitive process to use resources most efficiently for the benefit of consumers.
For these ferry users, the upgraded vessels, no matter where they're built, cannot come fast enough. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
With commercial vacancy rates at more than 30% in Vancouver's downtown east side, the city is taking steps to help fill those empty storefronts quicker than usual. As Michelle Morton reports, the move is aimed at revitalizing the neighborhood and creating economic opportunities.
If you're walking along Hastings Street, it's not uncommon to see storefronts like these sitting empty.
We know that there are neighborhoods that are struggling, especially in the commercial areas.
To help bring new life to these stores, Klassen brought a motion forward to City Council this past Wednesday that would see vacant commercial spaces be used for up to 12 months without rezoning or change of use, as long as safety standards are met. And it received unanimous support.
What sometimes happens is people want to actually go in and start a business. It's just that time lapse that can be really challenging because you're paying rent and you're not doing any business.
Klassen says more than 30% of storefronts in the downtown east side are empty, and he's been working on this pilot idea with the local Business Improvement Association to help fill them.
This is an opportunity, I think, to help them get in the door quicker, not have to wait as long and go into debt or lose money on rent, be able to open, create vibrancy on the street, bring life back into this neighborhood.
David Dupre says this pilot program would help other entrepreneurs like himself. His company rents out this building to local artists.
The population down here is pretty serious, and so you have to deal with that for sure. But for most entrepreneurs, they wouldn't see that as a barrier. Most entrepreneurs want affordability, so they're looking for really good rent.
That sounds great if the city's helping small businesses, because we definitely need it.
Government deregulation, I think, is actually probably the way to go. Just actually getting, government out of the business of doing business.
I think we would find groups or organizations that would fit into the social fabric of the neighborhood. So we're thinking artist studios. There's always a lot of demand for art space, for creative space, small startup companies, light manufacturing.
If the program moves forward after staff draw up the bylaw, Klassen expects businesses will start having access to the temporary occupancy permit in October. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC Emergency Health Services says during the summer months there is a surge in 911 calls for people at risk of having a life-threatening allergic reaction. But as Tanushi Bhatnagar reports, they say preparation and quick thinking can help.
This is an EpiPen. It's used to treat anaphylaxis reactions. BC Emergency Health Services say they've treated over 600 cases this year, and in June alone, 145. They say if you know how to use one of these right, it can save your life.
They may be really nauseated and vomiting a lot. They may have swollen eyes, swollen lips. Sometimes people even feel that their throat is closing or that their tongue is swelling.
Some of the symptoms of anaphylaxis, a severe life-threatening allergic reaction. It can happen from anything, from certain food items, to medication, to insect bites and stings. And paramedics say they see a jump in cases every summer.
People are out at picnics, barbecues with friends. The bees and the wasps are out, so there's more prevalence of the possibility of having a severe allergic reaction to those things because of cross-contamination of food, etc.
Thwaites says an immediate shot of an EpiPen can relieve symptoms quickly.
Blue to the sky, orange to the thigh. Pop the blue cap off, and then you take the pen and put it right into the thigh muscle.
That has the largest muscle, and it's the middle of the thigh, sort of in between the knee and the hip.
Chan says EpiPens are a necessary but expensive life-saving device. Without insurance, one EpiPen can cost up to $120, but a prescription plan can help cover part of it.
90% of reactions are successfully treated with one dose of the EpiPen. And also, we shouldn't forget that these devices expire after 12 to 18 months.
Thwaites says it can either be self-administered or given by someone around you.
If you've never used one before and you're on the phone with one of our call takers, the directions are not only there, that they're going to be talking you through this on the telephone as well.
He says the expiry date of an EpiPen can be found on the side, and a window on the tube would show murky liquid instead of clear. Tanushi Bhatnagar, CBC News, Vancouver.
After being scaled down last year due to funding constraints, the Nanaimo Dragon Boat Festival is running at full capacity this year. The two-day event saw hundreds of paddlers compete this weekend, many of whom say they're happy to see the longtime annual festival back in the harbor city. Claire Palmer has more.
Spirits were high, but so were the winds. Despite that, Nanaimo's Dragon Boat Festival was back with a splash.
Everybody's happy that it's back here.
Last year, the Fairway Gorge Paddling Club, a Victoria-based paddling club that's helped organize the event the last 12 years, moved the race to Victoria due to increasing costs and a lack of government funding, resulting in Nanaimo's festival being a one-day regatta organized by Dragon Boat teams VI Paddling and the Downtown Nanaimo Business Association. Wiley says the impact was felt.
It was really devastating. It really left a hole. And it felt like we should have been doing something, and we weren't. And it was sad that that happened that way.
Maggie Henderson is with the Fairway Gorge Paddling Club and has helped organize the event the last 2 years. She says this year the main goal is to help the Nanaimo Paddling Club learn. so that it's better equipped to take over the festival in future years.
We're hoping to pass it along and kind of get the Nanaimo Paddling Club more involved in running the festival for the coming years.
She says from what she's seen over the weekend, there's no reason the festival shouldn't be in Nanaimo every year.
Very, very confident that we'll be able to hand it off and it'll be a successful event next year.
Wiley says she's thrilled to see the festival back.
It means everything, and it means everything to the community. It's a great boost to the community and to the paddlers that are here. It's about the racing, just the local camaraderie it brings.
Organizers estimate the festival brought over 400 participants to downtown Nanaimo and over 1,000 spectators. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
A UBC Okanagan professor is leading a global team to help translate and analyze a 13th century universal history text.
What is very relevant about this is the fact that this is a time of the transfer of knowledge from the East to the West. And because it's a universal history, everything is kind of, getting inside of it. It's like a big encyclopedia.
The General a Gran Historia, a 6,000-page manuscript, was commissioned to tell the story of human history from the creation of the world up to the 13th century. What makes it special is that its authors included people from Christian, Muslim, and Jewish backgrounds, which experts say was very rare during that time. The team is using AI to help with the translation. The first English volume should be out in a couple of years, with the project wrapping up by 2032. Still ahead, the catastrophic flooding in Texas that killed dozens of young people has some Canadian parents concerned about camp safety here at home. More on that story after the break. In Texas tonight, the search for more than 150 missing people has been suspended as emergency crews brace for more flash flooding. It's the first pause in search efforts since the July 4th disaster that killed more than 120 people. Heavy rain and strong winds have been pounding the region. Officials are urging people to avoid flooded roads and follow evacuation orders. Among those killed, more than 20 children and counselors from a girls' camp. That tragedy has some Canadian parents asking, could it happen here? Jessica Chung now on the efforts to keep kids safe should a natural disaster strike.
These are the cabins that we have. Mostly girl campers would stay in these cabins.
Preparing for another batch of campers to come in, David Seeley says safety is front of mind for his summer camp near Abbotsford, BC, especially on the heels of the flooding disaster in Texas.
When we hear about a tragedy, it does make us relook at what we've done. It makes us look at where our policies are and double checking on what are our policies for the less likely tragic scenarios. That's something that we definitely are looking at.
Earlier this month, floods in Texas swept through an all-girls Christian camp. Counselors tried to protect their campers as the water rose, but dozens were killed.
When something like this happens, we feel it across North America.
Accredited summer camps in Canada are overseen by the Canadian Camping Association. It sets out best practices like camp safety plans, evacuation procedures, emergency drills, and mandatory first aid training for staff, all of which are reviewed yearly. The association says this latest tragedy will have an impact on how camps deal with emergency situations in the future.
There is going to be a lot of professional development that will continue to happen around extreme weather and certainly around heavy rain and flooding.
But experts say floods like the one that swept through Texas aren't likely here in Canada.
I think actually a larger issue is wildfire, because they can move incredibly fast. It takes very little time for an out-of-control wildfire to travel a few kilometers.
Seeley says his message for any concerned parents is that it's still worth it to get kids outdoors.
The reason why we're out here is because it's enjoyable to be out here. There's health benefits to be out here as well.
For camp organizers, their focus will be on safety so campers can focus on making lasting memories. Jessica Chung, CBC News, Lyndall Beach, BC.
This was the beautiful sunny beach weather seen from the Long Beach Lodge in Tofino. I'll have your full forecast coming up next. All right, it is time now to take a look at our forecast for the days ahead, beginning with a quick peek at the current temperatures around the province tonight. A lot of moisture in the air for many parts of the province overnight tonight. 11 in Fort St. John and rainy. Golden, similar conditions. On the island, clear in Victoria, and a low of 14 overnight. Similar conditions in Tofino. Heading into tomorrow, risk of thunderstorms for Prince George and a high of 22. Williams Lake is sitting around a 20 for tomorrow with a risk of thunderstorms. Colona, 21, and those thunderstorms as well. On the island, much drier with a high of 23 in Victoria and a mix of sun and clouds. The 5-day forecast for Metro Vancouver. Monday, a bit cooler than the rest of the week. 23 is our expected high for Monday. The heat is going to come on Tuesday. It's going to stick around till about Thursday before it dips a little for Friday. From ski jackets and hiking backpacks to tent poles, a mobile repair studio called the Rehub is touring BC's Kootenays in an effort to keep outdoor gear out of landfills. Take a look.
Hi, my name is Justin Johnson. I'm a research assistant at Selkirk Technology Access Center and a graduate of the Digital Fabrication and Design program at Selkirk College. So we're here as a pilot project with Core Rehub, and we're here to repair hard goods for outdoor gear. And we're 3D scanning hard goods to see how feasible it would be to repair parts.
It's doable.
My name's Kevin Pennock. I'm the Executive Director of Core Outdoors. Well, what inspired this was really the need. The Kootenays is probably per capita the biggest region in Canada where everybody uses outdoor gear. And there's not a lot of availability to actually get gear fixed. There's a couple people that do it full time. But outside from that, the availability of outdoor gear repair is really just sort of emerging. So we wanted to do our part as far as circularity to raise the awareness that outdoor gear can be fixed. Yeah, on the apparel side, there's probably 85% goes to the landfill and only 15% is actually recycled. So it's a big issue globally, and we're trying to change that.
I think it's really rewarding because you take something that somebody treasured that they can't use anymore and you give it life.
Breathing new life into old things. That is your late news for this Sunday. Thanks so much for joining us. To keep up to date with all the latest news, head to our website at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a great night.